Good afternoon, folks. Okay, so we've got a bit of an update now on the certificate of participation. It works, okay? It works a treat. It works whether you're facing a debt collector, anybody from the council, from the police. More importantly, it works in the court. Now, I've gone through the video I did again just to get a feel of how you guys are taking the communication, and I thought that I might just expand on it just so that you all understand a bit clearer what the mechanic is that's going on with this certificate of participation, or the COP. Trusts are set up by investors. So let's say I work at the council, right, and I have an idea that if we build such and such a structure, we can enhance the services we offer at a lesser cost to the ratepayers, basically. Okay, so the idea gets off, it goes through jumps through the hoops, etc., and it becomes an entity that people think, a project that people think is valid and it's worthwhile and it would benefit the town and the people. That's how it's presented. So obviously we have to know that we're looking at stakeholders. So anything that comes through these operations this way is the stakeholders are looking at how it can serve them, not you. All right. So keep that in mind as well. There's a presentation of it, but then there's what's really going on with the mechanics. Who's the beneficiary? Who's going to make use of it while it's in the trust before it becomes property of the actual, the corporate council, as it were. So capital has to be attracted to fund and build this project. Okay. The old method would be you get people to actually put cash up. Yeah, you know, investors, businessmen, the council put in, etc. It would come together that way. What I'm saying is, in order to build projects, do things, sometimes there's that much involved in it. A lot of capital has to be pulled in. So the system that we're operating under now, which is a lease revenue system, is different in that the idea is put out to investors. Those investors come together on agreement that they want to fund this project. So they create a trust. Okay. And the trust then is the issuer of the credit to build the project, and then is also classed as the owner of the entire project when it's completed. Now, the certificate of participation is what all these investors, etc., and everybody involved in this project holds to prove that they're invested in it. So it's a contract, and it's the contract in this certificate of the project and to those all involved. So once it's completed, then what happens is the trust leases the building to the council. Let's say, I mean, this can be done in the private in any way, but we're dealing with the civil service, the services that we own as the public, the taxpayers. Okay, and we know the councils are operating contrary to that, but this is what we have to take our power in relation to what is, not plead, beg, and ask these dipsticks for. You take it because it's already yours, you know. So this project then is then leased to the council, say. So the council then, you're then paying, you know, the ratepayers, because that's what operates the council, you're then paying this lease figure back. And only when it's completely finished is it said that the ownership moves into to the council. But then when you're considering the stakeholders, okay, it doesn't matter because the public are no longer in control of the councils. This is 100% a corporate event to feed the corporate. Okay, so the importance of this is all these operations now, like the police, the courts, the council, anybody that's involved in this corporate stakeholder system, these idiots on the streets fining you, security people that are fining you for parking your car on the road when, yeah, all these people are involved in this trust lease agreement that's going on in all aspects of your day to day. Now, because the councils especially are public services, public servants, and thus owned by the taxpayer, these contracts have been set up and you're not having disclosure. So you don't get to know who set it up, who are the investors. Yeah. You get to see the trust only. So you don't get to see the play. You're not getting full disclosure of the facts of the contract that the council have entered you into with a certificate of participation to lease this project, this building, this event, this whatever it might be. So, because you are the contracted party that the council have done on your behalf, okay, you have the right to see what it is you've been contracted into. Therefore, you have the right to demand, to see, not demand, forget that word, DE, as we get, to insist the certificate of participation is produced. Any time and each time anybody's coming at you claiming to be enforcing the contract. Okay? Do you get what I'm saying there? So that's the mechanic. Now, as we've said before, the old system was based on securities, bonds, etc., which promissory notes, liens against, etc., on your estates. So they're now moving this away from that into a new monetary system that's going to be fully electronic. So A, where's the money coming from? Because it's not real. To fund these projects that then entrap you, the public via your council, into these contracts that are furnishing the trusts, the investors, the courts if they're operating and dealing with this as trustees, yeah, as underwriters even. Can you understand what we're saying here now? So the importance of the certificate of participation is, it is the contract that all these bodies are coming to you and claiming to be enforcing against you. When it can't be so. So you want to see the certificate of participation. All right. I hope that that's actually put the idea of what it is that this certificate of participation is as a mechanical instrument, and why it's important that you have it for full disclosure, because no contract can be enforced without full disclosure, acceptance, etc. Otherwise they're void. As a contract, they're void. There's no authority in any of these bodies that are trying to shove their will upon you, when really it's the will of the trust that's been set up. And remember, the stakeholder committees are involved in this. They are the commanders of it. You know, they're the intermediary. They're the players operating the United Nations upon you, the European Union upon you, the banking legislation upon you, and all the contracts to NAFTA, all these, whatever these contracts are that have been set up under this umbrella of the United Nations system. That is the contract you want to see, because you've got to have given consent to be governed by the rules that these people are trying to force upon you. Well, let's see the contract. Show me the contract. I want full disclosure of the facts of this matter. And that is why you want the certificate of participation, which they're not going to give you. All right. So there we go. Just a brief one, so that it hopefully cements into your heads why you really need to now focus to this. Now, the Venetian. I'm now looking at you a little bit. What's your game, pal? All right. You don't have to listen to the rejection of the arrest warrant until he's shown you the certificate of participation that gives him the authority to do that in our court If I don't see you moving with that, my good man, then I would be questioning your intention. I don't want to question it. I don't want to see what isn't there if it's not there. But, you know, if you're serious as you're presenting yourself as, then you are looking for what will work. Here is your next move. Otherwise, what's just happened to your efforts is just going to continue to happen no matter what you do. You need to recognise that. Those that follow you and support you need to recognise that also. Because you've got something about you, get on with it. But this now is what you need to be looking at to move. You want the production of this difficult participation by whatever man or woman rebuffed your demand for an arrest warrant, which is clearly valid as an offence. So that's where you need to be looking at. If I am going to take you seriously. So that'd be my take on what this gentleman's doing. And as I said, I'm not poo-pooing nothing. But this, this is where it's at. And if you're serious, I would expect you to be picking this up. And if you don't, I want to know why. It's as simple as that. So with that, folks, I will say, till the next time.